Hi guys, I hope you guys are doing good and enjoying the series so far. Now today what I want to talk to you guys about is something that happened to me I think a year and a half or almost 2 years ago, and when I tell you about it, you're going to relate to it a lot. So I'm on my third attempt at a 100k challenge. I'm doing pretty good on it. I'm taking clean trades, my headspace is good, I'm following my rules, everything's pretty solid, right? And then what happens is that I take one loss, right? One loss, like a normal loss, it happens to everyone, part of the journey, but something in my head just switched after that. Like I had the urgency to, make it back right away. So what do? I get back in, having the need to make that loss, recover that loss, and, close the day in profit. And then what happens? That trade hits my stop loss as well. And at this point, I'm going to be honest with you guys, I wasn't thinking clearly. I wasn't following my rules. And even after taking the second loss, where I should have, closed the laptop and go about my day, I actually, got into another trade. That was a loss as well. And before I know it, I hit my daily drawdown and I lose the account, right? And that is it, third attempt, gone just like that. And the thing that messed with me wasn't even about, losing the account. It was that I knew what I was doing wrong while I was doing it. Like in real time, I knew it, but I still couldn't stop. So fourth attempt, I come back. I'm a bit more disciplined, a bit more patient. I make sure that I follow my rules and I pass the account. I passed the 100k challenge and I'm feeling good. I'm feeling confident. I'm trusting my system. I think I was a day away from getting a payout, and then I take another loss due to a bad trade. And instead of just closing my laptop, calling it a day, what do? I enter again with no real setup, no real confidences. I just enter because I'm literally a day away from having a payout. I don't want to miss it out. And one bad trade turned into two turned into three, and before you know it, I repeat the same mistake. I hit the daily drawdown and I breached the account. And I remember, sitting there in front of my screen and just thinking like, what is wrong with me? Why can I not get it right? And that is kind of, what this video is about. Because I was right about the market a lot of the times. Like my analysis was right. I could read the price correctly. I was in a good headspace and I knew what I was looking for, but I kept finding ways to not get paid, to not pass challenges. And it took me a bit of time to actually understand why that was happening. Being right and getting paid is not the same thing. And I know when I say it, it sounds simple, but trust me, a lot of people actually don't understand it until they've lost something real over it. Like think about it. How many times you've called a move, right, and you weren't in it? Or you were in it, but you moved your stop loss. Or you just got stopped out and you got back in without a real, confidence, just because you knew the direction. And price goes exactly where you thought it would. And you're just thinking, sitting there thinking, yeah, I was right about it. But honestly speaking, your account doesn't care about whether you were right or wrong. It only cares about the actions you took. And that's the thing, that gets people. Trading makes you think that, being right is a skill. Like if you can read the market well enough, the money will come. But that's not how it works, because I've seen people that can barely explain the market but still print money every single month because they're disciplined. And on the opposite side of it, I've seen people with incredible market knowledge constantly struggling because as soon as, one trade hits the stop loss, they just fall apart. And frankly speaking, I was the second person for a bit of time as well, where I could read the market really well, I could tell the bias, I could see, setups forming, but as soon as, one setup or two setups didn't work out, I would start questioning the system. Because what was happening was this: I would take a loss, like a normal loss, part of the game, right? But I would not see it that way. I would see it something like that needs to be fixed right away. So I would get back in and maybe that works, and you feel fine about it. And when it didn't work, I was in a worse position than when I started. And at that point, I would have even a bigger itch to actually save the day, to recover whatever I've lost. I would get back in. But, at that point, I was just pressing buttons, randomly hoping that, one trade or two trades would actually recover my losses for the day and, save the day. But it didn't really happen that way. And you know what the crazy part was? That none of that actually had anything to do with my ability to read the market. My analysis was fine. I just couldn't handle a loss. And I think that, the payout situation, that is something that messes with people. Because you would think, being close to a payout or being close to passing a challenge would make you trade better. Like, you're almost there, you need maybe a trade, maybe 2 days of trading good. But it doesn't happen like that for quite a lot of people. Because at this point, right, you're not thinking about the trades anymore. You're not thinking about your system. You're not thinking about the setup. You're actually thinking about numbers. And the second you start trading a number instead of your system, instead of your setup, that is when everything falls apart. Because you start seeing setups when they're not there. You start sizing up just to pass it quickly, just to get a bigger payout. And one trade happens that hits your stop loss, and instead of calling it a day and coming back tomorrow, you try to fix it right away. And that's it. That's how you go from being so close to getting a payout to, not getting one at all in a matter of maybe 1 trade, 2 trades. And I did that. I did that with my 100k challenges. And, both times I knew exactly what I was doing wrong, but I just couldn't stop myself. And then I realized, when the pain gets too much, when you're losing too much, or you're so close to getting a payout or passing an account and you just blow it, at those moments, I realized that the problem was never my strategy. It was never my system, the setup, right? Everything about that was actually quite good. But why? Because my data backed it up, right? So it was never about my entries or my analysis. It was that I cared too much about the outcome of each trade that I was taking. Like, each trade was, a massive thing that I had to go my way. And when it didn't go my way, I would panic. And, panicking leads to a lot of bad habits within trading. And that's how I would, lose my progress, lose all the money that I've made. As a matter of fact, the traders that get consistent payouts, that, have a very healthy equity curve, they don't look like geniuses. They're not like some smarty pants, or they don't have a secret sauce that no one else knows about. They genuinely detach themselves from every single trade they're taking. They don't care about the outcome of any trade that they're taking. They'll take a trade. If it wins, brilliant, right? Cool, it's good. If it doesn't, cool as well. They journal it, they move on. And that's it. They don't spiral, they don't revenge trade, they're not forcing it. They already know that, over enough number of trades, the numbers actually work in their favor. So no single trade is actually, worth losing your head over. And I think, most of you guys listening to me right now actually understand this. This is not rocket science. And I'm pretty sure most of the things that I said right now in this video, you guys actually agreed and, probably were nodding your head that, yeah, 1 trade doesn't matter. And then you take a loss and then you're immediately looking to get back in. And there's a gap between knowing it and actually living it. And generally, the whole game is about closing that gap. Because I'm pretty sure your strategy is fine. Your entries are fine. And one thing that's costing you money is actually how you behave once you take a loss. Whether you journal it and then close your laptop and call it a day and come back the next session or the next day, or you have that need to fix it right away. And speaking from my own personal experience, because this entire series is all about that, I want to tell you guys how my experience has been in trading, what I've learned, the do's and the don'ts. So you actually, understand that some of the things that you're going through is very common in trading, and there's solutions to that. There's ways to go about it and maybe avoid making the same mistakes like I did. And the only way I actually got better at this was actually losing it enough times to start taking it seriously. 2 attempts at 100k, a payout that I should have had, and I think eventually it got to a point where I got really tired of doing it to myself. So if you're in that place right now where, you find yourself being very close to achieving your goal, whether that's passing an account or getting a payout, and you end up messing it for yourself, I'm not going to sit here, and give you a list of things to fix. I'm just going to say this. The trade you're about to revenge trade is not going to save your day. Revenge trading, getting back in just to save the day, close the day in green, it never works. What you got to do is just close your laptop, call it a day, come back next day. And that's actually the whole secret of being disciplined. And that's it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Trade good, trade safe, and I'll see you in the next one.